A pool cleaner man named Bud Yablonsky lives in Los Angeles. While cleaning, he sees a man in the nearby house leaving. Bud takes out his weapons and sneaks into the house. He is confronted by an old woman who is a vampire and attacks him. Bud fights her, and after a couple of attempts, Bud slits her throat and kills her. Another vampire appears and his head is chopped off, and Bud shoots him. He then extracts their teeth and reveals that Bud's job is to be a vampire hunter. A vampire is tied in a construction area burning from the sunlight. A female vampire named Audrey arrives and wants to punish the man. The man begs for his life, but she buries him and leaves the site. Bud comes to his apartment building and showers with skunk musk so the vampire can't sniff his smell. After that, he picks up his daughter Paige and spends some good time with her. Bud then takes her to his wife's house. They are separated. His wife Jocelyn tells him that she is going to Florida for the good future of their daughter. Bud doesn't want to leave them and asks her about the matter. Jocelyn explains their daughter's school tuition, covers his debts, and buys his daughter braces. Bud originally left the Vampires Union and now works off the field, and he has no medical insurance either. He says to his wife, "I will manage the money till Monday," and leaves. Bud goes to meet his friend Troy at the pawn shop, who works as a vampire's teeth trader. Bud gives him teeth, and after checking them, Troy only offers him $800. The union pays higher, but Bud is working without a permit and hence has to approach Troy in the black market. Bud tells him, "I need money," and gives him his gun and Jordan shoes. Paige calls him and tells him that Mom said we're going to Florida, but Bud tells her, "You guys are staying." Audrey reaches her house, and inside, she sees the elderly woman is dead. Klaus, her right hand, tastes the blood and tells her it's only one man. The woman was Audrey's daughter, and she ordered him to find that man. Bud meets his friend Big John and asks for his help to rejoin the union. John tells him that, "I'm putting my name, so don't make any mistake this time." They move inside the building, where we see on the board that how many vampires they are killing worldwide. They meet the union chief named Ralph Seeger. Seeger remembers Bud that he had been kicked off because of his risky and aggressive hunting style. Bud accepts all of his mistakes and wants a second chance because he needs money. Seeger permits him to join, and after paying his previous debt, he can get health insurance too. Bud asks for the night shift, but Seeger only allows him to work in the day shift. Bud then sells the teeth, and the accountant only gives him $2,000 due to his previous debt. Seeger arrives and appoints Seth to join Bud in the shift. Seth tells the chief he has no experience working in the field and does not want to work with Bud. Seeger tells him, "You will update me if Bud breaks any protocol." Seth is a little nervous, but Seeger convinces him by tempting him with a promotion. Bud makes paper ducks in the garage and Seth joins them there. He comes in a suit and Bud tells him, "We have to look normal, so come in formal dress." Seth tells him about a 700-year-old vampire who runs drugs in LA, but Bud doesn't take him seriously. Bud makes bullets of pingo wood, mixing it with garlic. These bullets pierce the vampire's heart, while silver is used to cut their throat. The pair then leaves to hunt vampires. They arrive at the animal shelter, where they see a vampire taking cats to turn them. Bud asks Seth about the vampire species. Seth tells him there are 5: southern, eastern, spider, uber, and juvenile. All species are strong except juvenile vampires, who hide like zombies. They are organized by age, and sunlight is the only thing they are scared of. They can't reproduce, but they can turn people. They follow the vampire to the bowling center. Bud gives him a gun and asks him to stay in the car. Meanwhile, Audrey enters the pawn shop and confronts Troy. She stabs on his hand and asks him for the guy who sold him the teeth. She reveals that humans used to worship vampires as gods before the humans turned on them, and that she has plans to recreate that old god worship hierarchy. But Troy calls her the bitch and she kills him. Bud goes inside and starts fighting with the vamps. While outside, Seth gets a call from Chief, who asks him to keep an eye on Bud. One of the vamps attacks Bud and he loses his gun. Seth arrives and Bud asks him to give him the gun. Scary Seth gives him the gun and Bud shoots the vampire. Outside, Seth vomits and his pants get wet with urine, making him cry. Bud tells him, "You did a great job, and fighting vampires for the first time gets everyone's pants wet." Bud then drops him off at home, and before leaving, Bud gives him the same garlic paste so he can take a bath with it. Bud tells Seth the vampires release a gas that gets on you that other vamps can sniff out. Bud finds Seth's notebook in the car in which he wrote about Bud not following protocol. After that, Bud meets his new neighbor Heather, who invites him inside her apartment. She asks him, thanks for helping her, and they make small talk and Bud leaves. Bud catches up with Seth and reveals his notebook, which states that Bud has broken many rules. Seth tells him that I have to tell the union all this, but Bud realizes that Seeger has lured him into the promotion. Bud gets angry at him and says that if I had followed the rules, they would both be dead yesterday. Bud goes to the pawn shop to see Troy, and inside, he finds him dead. He sees his name written on the table with Troy's teeth. Seth asks him to stay until they inform the Union, and Bud dismisses his protocols. Bud tells him of his aim to support his family with his earnings as his ex-wife wants to move to Florida. Despite violating several protocols, Seth decides to support Bud. Bud goes to his apartment and sees a man shouting at Heather, but he ignores them. The next day, Bud and Seth reach Audrey's Valley to kill some vamps. They see the brothers Mike and Deron, who are also there to hunt them. They meet and the group decides to hunt them together on half-half money. Bud gives Seth a neck guard and a pistol, after which they all head into the building. Inside they fight with several varieties of vampires. Seth is attacked by a vampire and unable to fight with it, but luckily he is saved by the brothers. Before they leave, a vampire tries to run outside and Bud shoots him, but he runs away. They are all shocked and Bud explains the vamps have this sunscreen that helps them in the sunlight. Bud goes to his wife's house and takes Paige to her friend's birthday party. Audrey contacts Bud threatening his family, revealing the old vampire was her daughter. Bud rushes to his ex-wife to save her while being pursued by vampires. He fails to get there in time and his family is taken hostage and Seth gets transformed into a vampire. Seth gets hungry and attacks Bud, but Bud cuts off his head. Seth is somehow not killed and manages to put his head over his body. Seth decides to help Bud and they leave to recruit Bud's neighbor Heather. Bud now has to rescue his family and stop Audrey's plans. Bud confronts Heather. She helps Audrey with the help of her boyfriend who smelled Bud when he returned to his apartment earlier. Heather says she hates working for Audrey but has no choice. Audrey takes his family to her hidden place and she wants their daughter into a vampire. Heather gives Seth some blood which helps him to regenerate his head. Heather, Seth, and Bud leave to attack Audrey's stronghold. They kill many vampires but there are too many and the vamps attack the group. Luckily, John arrives and attacks the vamps with his machine gun and kills them all, saving the group. Heather tells them that they have to go through the tunnel where he will find Audrey. Heather and Seth stay out while Bud and John move inside the building. Inside the lab, John shoots all the vamps, and a remaining vampire attacks John whom he killed easily. They find guns and vamps killing bullets and move through a tunnel. Klaus smells Bud's blood and Audrey asks to bring him to him. During the fight, John is bitten and locks himself inside, telling Bud to save his family. John blasts the grenade killing all the vampires, while Bud confronts Klaus. Seth and Heather arrive there and they ask Bud to find Audrey. Audrey attacks Jocelyn and Bud arrives asking her to leave his family. Audrey tells him that she is taking revenge of her daughter. Audrey transforms and attacks Bud, hitting Bud brutally with her speed. The pair fights Klaus and stretches arms to tear him apart, killing him. Bud has no match against Audrey and his daughter encourages him to fight. Bud shoots Audrey but she catches the bullet. Bud tricks her, prompting her to charge him. But she ends up severing her neck, as Bud has installed a silver wire in the path at head height, and saves his family. After that, Bud introduces his family to Seth and Heather, calling them his friends. They see John's hat and Bud emotionally gives it to Seth, telling him it will give you courage. Outside, Seeger arrives with his team and tells Bud that I'll never have to deal with you again. Seeger also cancels Seth's promotion as he doesn't know Seth is a vampire now. Seth helps Bud stay in the Union by citing protocol to justify his actions and decides to work with him. Bud happily leaves with his family. As the Jablonski family drives away, John climbs out of a sewer manhole, showing that he survived the fight. Thanks for watching and make sure to press the subscribe button for more amazing videos.